All right, guys, come on in. Good morning, everybody. Come on in, come on in. This is a very, very quick scope, and I need you guys to come in quickly. Hey, my beautiful wife, good morning. I love you. All right, guys, very, very quickly. This Apostle, bless you, Joshi. Love you, man. I'm gonna call you today. Real quick, guys, because I don't have a lot of time. This past Sunday, one of the focuses of what God was trying to get to the people at All Nations Worship Assembly prior to the message was that God was making room for us. He was making room for us. And I wanted to give a very quick point, quick lesson, and even quick encouragement about this season of Rehoboth and this season of room. Very quickly, in the book of Genesis, I believe chapter 26, if I'm not mistaken, it deals with how Abraham had dug wells at one point of his life, and as he had dug these wells, these wells were full of water. Water represents refreshing, and water represents relief, and water represents an oasis, a place to have sustenance. And so Abraham built these wells, but then after his death, the Bible says that the Philistines, who were the enemies of Israel, began to fill them up with dirt, creating mud and creating or not allowing the opportunity for the refreshing and the relief and the oasis to be made available for the people of that land. So here is then Isaac, who is the son of Abraham, and he represents the second generation. He represents another generation that rises up, and he has a bright idea. He does something in his generation that others or most probably wouldn't have done, and he began to dig these wells again. The thing that was stopped up, the things that were blocked, the things that were kept away from the people from allowing them to see provision. Hey, Mandy, love you. Isaac says, I'm going to dig them again. And as he began to dig the first well, in order to revive what his father had done that the enemy had stopped, the Bible says they dug and they struck water. Now, this could have been a moment to celebrate, and it could have been a moment to be overjoyed and happy, but then there was contention. For the people of the land began to dispute with them and say, hey, this is our water, this is our well, it doesn't belong to you. And because there was this fighting and because there was this turmoil, the Bible says that Isaac named that first well Esek, E-S-E-K, Esek, which simply means dispute. So he says, you know what, since there's fighting over this well, let me dig again. He goes and he digs the second well. This second well, he finds that he strikes water. He could have been overjoyed, he could have been happy, but he found that there was more contention. And so while they were quarreling over this well and who belonged, whether the water belonged to them or belonged to someone else, Isaac says, I'm going to name this well Sitnah, which means contention or strife. And so here it is that after digging and after working and after toiling and after slaving and after being in a season of very labor-intensive work, there is fighting and there is strife and there are issues and there are problems. And most people in this scenario would probably have given up. Most people would have stopped. Most people would have quit. Because they would probably have assumed that because there was contention or because there was difficulty or because there was adversity, that this must not be God. Because I am being fought and because I am dealing with hardship and because I'm going through, maybe the hand of the Lord is not on my digging, or maybe the hand of the Lord is not on what I'm attempting to build, or maybe the hand of the Lord is not on what I'm attempting to craft and create. They could have very easily gotten discouraged and said, this is not the Lord. But Isaac had the bright idea and even the gall to dig a third time. And where, again, he could have quit, where he could have assumed that God was not with him in the digging. He dug the third time, and the Bible says that at this dig and during this dig, there was no fighting, there was no contention, there was no strife, there was no adversity, there was nothing coming against him to prevent him from owning this season of water and this season of relief. And so he then names this third well, representing a third season. He names it Rehoboth, Rehoboth, Rehoboth. And he says, the reason I named it Rehoboth is because the Lord has made room for us. And not only has he made room, but the purpose of this room is to make us fruitful in the land. The Lord has made room for us, and now he's going to make us fruitful in the land. The point of this is that many of you all have been building, and many of you all have been digging, and many of you all have been toiling. And you come to points in places in your life where it seems as though what you're digging is not really bringing you to destiny. And it would be easy, or it would be what most people would think to be common sense, to stop digging at well one. Love you, Prophet Isaac, or to stop digging with well number two. But yet he digs again. And my encouragement to you this morning is, do not be afraid to dig again. I know that you have attempted in prior seasons to make things happen, to put the work in, to put the time in. I know you have had blood, sweat, and tears that were sown into seasons that seemingly did not work. I know it seemed as though God was not with you when you were digging, and you had to deal with fighting and contention and problems and everything else that's associated with attempting to build anything that's worthwhile. But don't quit. Maybe you're at well one and you're seeing disputes. Maybe you're at well two and you are seeing strife. That is not an indicator that God is not with you, but maybe God is using the season of well one that seemingly isn't working, or the season of well two that seemingly is not working, as a point for you to come into process. Good morning. As a point for you to come into the process that's necessary for well number three. Maybe the thing that is not working now is only practice for what the Lord is attempting to promote you into, or practice for what the Lord is attempting to process you into. You have to understand that when you come into a season like well 3, according to Genesis, you come into a season of room. You come into a season of Rehoboth. You come to a season where God not only provides room, but he does it with the intent of making you extremely fruitful. God doesn't want to give you room just so that you can have space. He wants to give you room so that you can utilize the room he gives you to multiply. There's a very, very short passage in the Bible that talks about Jabez. And Jabez was a person whom the Bible says was born in contention. His mother named him Jabez because of the pain she suffered while either carrying him or attempting to birth him out. But the Bible tells us that there was some kind of issue happening during her pregnancy. And so she named him Jabez because of her sorrow. Jabez was born, but he grows up and he says, you know, I was used to being in my mother's womb, and I was used to being closed in and claustrophobic. I was used to being confined. I was used to the sorrow that came with being in close quarters. But today, my prayer to you, God, is, oh, that you would bless me indeed, and that you would expand my borders. So what Jabez was requesting from God was that God would not allow him to remain in a place of confined quarters or closed quarters, that God would not allow him to just be boxed in, but that God would expand his borders and broaden his territory. Now, again, we shout off of that message, but because we think that God is going to do something big, which he is. But the point of God giving us room is so that we can utilize the room in the land to plant, to sow, and to grow. There has to be growth. Why would God give you more? Why would he expand you? Why would he widen you? Why would he increase your capacity if you're not going to use the room? It's just like, you know, when I was younger, I always imagined living in a very big house. God, I can't wait for my mansion and all of this other stuff. But what I didn't consider is what in the world I would put in all of those rooms. If I had 6 bedrooms and 3.5 bathrooms or more, do I really need that amount of room? Or am I just trying to fit in with the crowd? Or do I just want more because more seems to be better? No, God gives us more because he wants us to utilize them more. And so with Isaac, when he dug well number 3, he realized that God had made room for him and that he was going to be fruitful in the land. So my quick morning scope encouragement to you is that although there is fighting and although there is contention, don't be afraid to dig again. This is a season of Rehoboth where the Lord is making room for you so that you might be fruitful. And I will say this. The Bible says that there was no contention about well 3. There was no fighting about the 3rd well. That there was no this belongs to me or this is mine. There was none of that at well 3. What this simply means is that you are not fighting over your Rehoboth season, but your fighting has been to get to Rehoboth. I'll say it again. You're not fighting over the season of room. You are fighting to get to the room, okay? Well 1 was a season of fighting. Well 2 was a season of strife. But there will be no fighting once you get into the season of your room. And I believe that for many of you all out there, whether you're live or whether you're watching the replay, that the Lord has allowed you to go through the issues and the headaches and the problems and the turmoils and the contentions of those few seasons, just so that you can enjoy the non-fighting and the relaxation of the season of room. God doesn't want you fighting when he gives you room. He wants you growing. He wants you sowing. He wants you developing. He's not trying to bring you into contention. So if you're in a fight right now, that means you're probably either at well 1 or well 2. You're probably in a season that is preparing you and processing you for the promise of well number 3. So all I have to say to you guys is get ready for room. How do I get ready for room? I allow myself to deal with the issues of well 1 and 2. This is a season where God is prepping you and processing you for his promise. Do not be afraid to dig again. I gotta go. That's all I got. I love you guys dearly. A little bit after 9, so I gotta head into the office. So love you much. Hopefully I'll be talking to you guys soon. Take care.